Good morning, everybody. It's good to see you. So I've seen a handful of TikToks in the wake of the abhorrent anti-abortion bill that was passed in Virginia this past week over the weekend. Um, I wanted to. I know that there's a handful of conservatives out there that care more about money than they care about the concept of, you know, morals and shit like that. So I wanted to show why forcing women to have an abortion leads to a worse society. Now I'm going to be using facts and statistics. So for if you are adverse to that, please click off this video and go have fun with your feelies. Now, for those who have stayed, who are interested, or those who have stayed out of spite, I'm glad, because we're going to talk about it. And you might call me a dumb little libtard after this, but fact of the matter is, I'm right, you're wrong, and you're not. And just because you want the world to work the way that you want to, and it never will. It works the way I think it works, because I don't, because the way I think it works is not backed up by my feelings. It's backed up by science and facts. So, the abortion debate is a long and arduous one, and frankly, we don't need to get too deep into it. I wanted to pose a question: how much does it cost to raise a child? Well, in approximately $20-12, I couldn't find the study for the sake of this video, but I'm going off of my remembrance of me reading it. If anybody can find a link to that, put it down below. I would genuinely appreciate that. Costs about $500,000 in $20-12, and given that inflation has been fucked since then. These aren't the exact numbers that in today's dollars, but I'm going to approximate and just double that, because it feels about right given the difference in costs between now and 2012, and it just makes the math a little bit easier. So, let's pull up Illustrator real quick. Okay. So, we got, let me just grab the paint tool here. We got 1 milli. Apologize for my atrocious handwriting. I wish I had a drawing tablet, but I gave the one I bought to my best friend as a gift. Like, I bought it for myself. I bought it for him. So, 1 mil costs God, that's atrocious M. I'm so sorry about that. 1 mil to raise a kid from 0 to 18. This isn't even including, like, any assistance they might need after the fact. That's 1 kid, 1 mil, 0 to 18. That's a lot of money. Granted, it's spread over 18 years. So if we were to say, spread that out over a couple months, let's hit the calculator. Spoilers on that earlier thing. So let's say 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 million divided by 18 divided by 12 months. So, having 1 kid costs you in your household approximately $46,000 a month, or $4,600 a month. My apologies. And some change. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. So much money, I would wager, that most people wouldn't be able to pay it. And that's because they don't. A lot of people are in poverty and aren't getting the things they need to survive. What else is linked within poverty? Crime. Because when you are broke, desperate, and starving, you will do what you need to do to survive. And so that is kind of one of the points I wanted to make here. The idea that making that we live in a society that does not have childcare as that's paid for, that does not have college paid for, that does not have that food is a commodity, housing is an expensive commodity, like medicine, all that. It is so unbelievably difficult to raise a child by default that having to juggle an extra $4,500 a month is absurd. That is about, like, that much is how much I would approximately make in a month after taxes, and I make ends meet as it is where I live. I wouldn't be able to afford a kid. I wouldn't. That's just the long and short of it. And there's people who make less than me who have less benefits than I do, that have multiple kids that I know. And so the question is, what's the solution here? Well, I personally would argue that the solution is spending money on poverty relief, or ideally, spending more and both refurbishing and refunding our welfare state. And you might be into the two conservatives that stuck around to this point through that absolute banger of an opening minute and 30 seconds. You're like, oh God, now he's just sort of... Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. Because the fact of the matter is, the more you spend on helping the people at the bottom, the less crime there is. When the less crime there is, the less crime means a better society, right? So, I've talked about all of this shit. It's all been economic. Where does the abortion come in? We are forcing women, regardless of their circumstance, whether they're raped, whether they're raped, whether it's been forced upon them by a family member. Nothing. Like, there's no support. If this young girl grows up in a conservative Christian community and she gets raped by an uncle, and then that uncle lies even though everybody knows he's the child diddler, the fact of the matter is, this young teenage girl is pregnant in a conservative community. And what do they do in conservative communities when that shit happens to young girls? They ostracize them. They kick them out of their house. They're homeless. And these are usually in states that have gutted their social safety net to the point where this young girl will probably get a bus ticket, either from the state, from her municipality telling her to get the fuck out, or her parents wanting her to get the hell away and never talk to him again. And they will go to a Chicago, they will go to a New York, they will go to a LA, where all of these social services actually do exist and are still subpar. Fun little fact, most of the homeless people that are in LA are from red states that couldn't give a fuck about them. You are forcing a child into an unwanted child into an unsafe world that doesn't even have the luxury of parents that can adequately take care of them, even if they want to. It is already hard to even stomach the idea of having a kid right now, given the state of the world. And we're going to force someone who didn't want this kid to carry that kid to term. And then that kid, if they have no birth defects, didn't end up as an ectopic pregnancy, things of that nature, because there's so many things with a pregnancy that can go wrong that a bunch of boomer men in state houses can't fucking wrap their minds around. That this kid is going to end up being poor and desperate. And sure, there might be 1 in a million that rises up and gets an upper middle class job and votes Republican because if he could do it, anybody could do it. But the fact of the matter is most people are going to be broke and desperate and starving. And the more broke, desperate, starving people you have means more crime. How do you reduce that? More welfare spending. How do you if you're going to be a pro-life advocate, you also need to advocate for a stronger CPS, a stronger public federal daycare is paid publicly for, things of that nature. You cannot just let I think the last point I want to touch on here is the concept of punishment, because a lot of especially the Christian ones, believe that it should be a punishment, that a kid is a punishment for an action of having unprotected sex outside of marriage. So you are willing to make society worse because you think someone deserves to get punished for having sex. You are willing to cause... punishment is getting spanked. Punishment is going to prison. Punishment is getting your teeth clocked when you have a smart mouth with someone. That's punishment. That's punishment. Punishment is not condemning, at least, and this is not this isn't even counting if there's a partner involved that is also going to be supporting this. You are condemning at least 2 human beings to a life of struggle and strife. Because let's be real, abortions are still going to be legal for people who can afford it. For the people that can afford to go to a blue state. For the people that can afford to get on a round-trip flight in a single day and be back home at night before anybody realized that they were gone for their appointment at the North Shipley Planned Parenthood up in Delaware, because that's the closest one, when they live in Virginia. I think you need to ask yourself, do you want a society that is worsened and lesser by having more poor and desperate people doing whatever they can to survive, and not want to pay for a social safety net to help those people? You're not that's the biggest thing. I'm not okay with restricting abortion, but I could stomach y'all's arguments a little bit better if I saw y'all advocating for things like universal child care, UBI maybe, better access to Section 8, better access to food stamps, restructuring these programs to make them better and more accessible, spending more money on education, making our public schools better, hiring more teachers, paying teachers more, all of these things, you have to have, if you want to ban abortion, you have to make having a kid that means you want this kid to exist, and you need to take some ownership of that, and that you take ownership of that by paying fucking taxes for programs to make sure that kid is a productive and law-abiding member of our society. And they're not going to be that if they grow up in a house unwanted by the person who birthed them, and living in a society that tries to extort and take from them at every fucking point, and without ever helping them in the slightest. So I don't want to hear a conversation with a pro-lifer unless I say, so you're up for, so you're willing to pay more taxes in to pay for universal child care. Oh, so you're willing to pay more taxes for stipends and stuff for young mothers and government mandated paid leave, and so they can do that stuff. Maternity leave, I mean. Y'all make me mad. Y'all say it's a human life, it's a human life, it's a human life, and in the moment that baby gets yeeted from the womb, you could give 5 flying fucks about him. It's always Christians too, and it's always the Christians that are the least Christ-like.